All right, folks, welcome to the podcast. Look at the proof. Here it is. This Lily Morgan, who lied to me and was a block and a half from my house, who tried to convince me that she was responsible for all of the Capitol Roots 30 plus gardens, community gardens that are around the Capital District, who just happened to be from Troy and was trying to honeypot me and bait me, is absolutely connected to corrupt Judge Jill A. King and her brother-in-law Matt Turner, who's on this commission that appoints all the judges in New York State outside of New York City. 700 justices, 5,500 employees related with the unified court system. My adult daughters, who had reported to Judge Peter G. Crummy, a year earlier of abuse, he waited a whole year to attack my daughter, to try to hurt me because I exposed his corruption, and tried to give her 5 felony charges after she fought back for the first time. The guy who's in charge of the Schenectady County Emergency Management Department of Homeland Security was a Galway cop who was arrested and had to resign, and he ended up at the Schenectady County Jail under Sheriff D'Agostino. And Alicia Burns, the former executive director of the Upper Union Street Business Improvement District, reported to him that there was sex trafficking happening at Upper Union Street at Chapali and Platters. The owners there also reported it. And instead of anything happening, they arrested Alicia Burns. Alicia, she likes to be called Alicia. And they threw her in a psych ward, and I spent a month and a half contacting Schenectady County Legislator Michelle Osterlich, Kathy Gatta, Richard Russo, that this lady was falsely arrested to keep her silent, and that they needed to release her. Corrupt county legislators, people, Ed Kozer is another one, former Schenectady City Council president. Finally, a bunch of folks came forward and reported him for sexual assault that happened on them when they were a child, when he was in charge of the athletics programs. And he landed on his feet, and he only works part-time, but he makes a huge salary working for the Schenectady County Legislature. Louis Squillia, Alicia Burns can tell you about them.
Good evening, David Long. This is Alicia Burns. I resigned from the Upper Union Street Business Improvement District, and for about 2 weeks now, and the police came to my apartment. You know where I live, 1740 Apartment 2, Union Street. I got my insurance on that, the renter's insurance. I also have all the text messages you sent me. And Antonio Nelson was the chair of the board. Do not fuck with Joe Fazy. He is my friend and the chairman of the board. But feel free to Anthony James. It's really Antonio Edinino. And it's Patrick Benoist. And it's Christopher DeCoco. And this is entrapment for your sober program and for your case of Schenectady with Rosario. So you can run that back up to Harlem in South Philly, wherever you're from. What I would like to say is I'm still on the clock. I'm on 2 task force. You don't know where I work for. But I didn't get my paycheck. Because I never get a check because I'm a slave to the government, the United States Social Security Administration. So check your medical records. Check your actual documentation for your ghostwriters, Mo Golub, Emil Golub, and the Golub Corporation, and Luigi Squillia. Squill this. Aldo. And Como City Department of Education, union, contract never fulfilled, CSCA. So,
The Squilla family are all tied in with the Upper Union Street BID, and they live right up here in Five Corners. This Lily Morgan showed up around the corner from my house. She's from Troy. She said that she was in charge of the Capital Roots, the Service Employees International Union, which represents 1.9 million workers in over 100 occupations in the U.S. and Canada, is focused on organizing workers in three sections: healthcare, including hospitals, home care, nursing home workers, public services, and property services. And this Lily Morgan left the Capital Roots, which is supposed to be all about these community gardens, in July 2022, and then the union filed a lawsuit against her organization in August 2022. So let's see where Lily Morgan really works and worked. Lily Morgan was working for the Schenectady County Jail in the community's public service program, which deals with rape and accusations of rape and date rape and all these other things. And her colleagues were working at the Albany County Jail. So Lily Morgan, who just blurted out that she wants to go to Italy, and I didn't mention anything about Italy, and lied to me about being part of Slow Food International and Slow Food USA, came all the way from Troy to Schenectady, New York, and then lied about being in charge of all the Capital Roots gardens. Who now, this judge made a decision that they can no longer harass and covertly put surveillance on and stalk and electronically surveil the people that work for them. So it's amazing how these folks are tied into the Albany County Jail, the Schenectady County Jail, this crisis rape center, which, again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't investigate rape, but when you have somebody showing up out of the blue like this Lily Morgan, and then she's wanting to, contact me when I'm telling her instead to have her male person who handles public relations and marketing contact me, there's something very suspicious about that. This guy, Sergeant Fody, from the Fraternal Order of Police, and Frank Granero from the Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police, and Rain Bonsi, who was trying to honeypot me at our cigar lounge, and Bill Donahue from the Catholic League based in New York City, and Aideen Viscusi and Joelle Viscusi from Total Events, and this Michelle Viola Strait, who worked with Rain Bonsi for things of my very own, providing her free labor through mentally challenged people. They're all connected to the Fraternal Order of Police, to the Rensselaer Bada Bing Troy judge, no longer a judge, Peter G. Crummy, Matt Turner, judge, corrupt, Jill A. King, corrupt, targeting me, trying to set me up, trying to get me in handcuffs, trying to get me in jail, all affiliated with this Lily Morgan, who is part of the Rensselaer County Sexual Assault Response Team. And they had this conference, and Lily she goes under Lily Althea, but her full name is Lily Althea Morgan, and she lives in Troy. And on June 5th, 2025, she put together a conference of this Rensselaer County Sexual Assault Response Team Conference, and then posted it on Facebook, and you're looking at it right here. What's interesting is, before I found out that this Rain Bonsi is actually an undercover cop who has worked for the New York State Department of Corrections, she was hanging out late night at our cigar lounge.
Hi there. Welcome to another segment of your local business showcase. This is our Schenectady local businesses to show you what they do in Schenectady County. RAIN has a very special business nonprofit to help children. And I'll let her tell you all about
Crazy
it.
person.
RAIN, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. Things of My Very Own is a nonprofit corporation we formed approximately 5 years ago. Profits are able to provide and what children need.
And is this through social services that are referred?
We receive referrals from police departments, social service entities, CPS, DSS,
Corrupt
to the
organizations
community action
trying to
program,
frame
house-to-house
journalists and
hospitals.
whistleblowers.
So what background did you have in social services that led you to form this organization?
I started out working for the Department of Corrections High-Risk Sex Offender Unit. And from there, I went to Victim Services and worked for a national nonprofit organization, starting out in Victim Services and then moving up to one of the executive directors.
She's always hanging around men, hugging on them. She's always giving me these booby hugs and kissing me and wanting to know more about me and how old I am. And she talks to me always, and she always, every time, acts crazy and tells me that politicians and people from Rotary International that are her donors of Things of My Very Own, which I now, after investigating, found out is controlled by the New York State Fraternal Order of Police, tells me that when she's at the cigar lounge, she continually says this story over and over, that she was sexually abused by politicians, that her donors, that they're the big money people, and that they will actually reach under her dress and sexually assault her and say to her, "Oh, I understand you were sexually abused as a child. Did you like it? Did you have an orgasm?" And I'm like, well, listen, I don't want to hear this stuff. What is up? That's crazy. Why would somebody think that because they're giving you money that they have the privilege to sexually assault you and then you're taking the money? That's basically prostitution. When I told her this, Rain Banchi, however way you want to pronounce it, told me, "I don't have a problem with prostitution." Really? She's a honeypot. So I started a father's rights group after I was realizing I was being persecuted by the deep state, called Pro Se Dads, teaching dads how to represent themselves in the family court. Oh, did they hate that, because that affects their cash cow. Frank Granero of Things of My Very Own with Rain Bonsi works for Matt Turner, corrupt judge Jill A. King's brother-in-law from American Catholic University, who appoints all the judges to the unified court system in New York State. Frank Granero is not just FOP. The only job that he's held from 2015 to 2023 was working for the unified court system, and he has the highest paid salary. I've been teaching for decades men how to avoid the traps of the honeypots. I sat with 4 guys at my cigar lounge, and they were talking about women wanting them to pay their cell phone bills, wanting to move into their apartments. And these honey traps, read Proverbs chapter 5, especially men. Read Proverbs chapter 5. Stay away from immoral women and trust God. Put your faith in Christ and Christ alone. So let me tell you how Very Reverend Monsignor John E. Maney is directly connected, the family, to the Jesuits. Monsignor Maney was ordained on July 30th, 1939 at the Jesuits St. Ignatius Temple in Rome, Italy. 1939. Hitler rises to power with the signing of the Reich Concordat in 1933 between the Vatican and the Nazi Third Reich. World War II breaks out in 1939. So then Maney returned to Rochester, New York, ordained to teach at the Jesuits St. Andrew's Seminary in Rochester. And this St. Andrew's Seminary was part of the whole Jesuits McQuaid Jesuit Boys High School. Then he's named chancellor, Given the title Very Reverend Monsignor in 1952, named Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Rochester on July 2nd, 1954. In 1955, he goes back to Rome, and Pope Pius XII, who backed the Nazi Third Reich, elevates Maney. Now, during the whole JFK era, in 1962, he goes back to Rome for Vatican II, the Council of Vatican II, and there he's elevated by JFK Pope John the 23rd, as, this highest level of the Catholic Church as a prelate. So Monsignor Maney was ordained, starting in July 30th, 1939. Now, let me tell you about the rest of the family members. His sister was this Sister Mary Elizabeth Maney, who worked for the New York State Department of Public Works. She was also involved with Seton University and Pace University. She was heavily embedded in, government activities. She was a senior stenographer for the New York State Department of Public Works, and starting in 1951, she was involved in White Plains education, New York State Department of Education, permanent certificate in social studies, you name it, UAlbany Veterans Wall of Honor. She served during World War II in the U.S. Coast Guard's Women's Reserve, SPARS. Her nephew is this Gerard Maney, Judge Maney, who was assigned to my case. And let me tell you about I get a little bit more about Sister Mary Elizabeth Maney. She died on July 12, 2016. And she was also known and was as the Sister Mary Beth. And she was born in Geneva, New York, right up there in that whole Rochester, whatnot area. The daughter of the late Elizabeth Schreiberling Maney and John A. Maney. So this is how tight this Jesuit family is. And Schreiberling, speaking of Schreiberling, Judge Gerard Maney, he, prior to his election to becoming a judge, he was associated with the law firm of Schreiberling, Rogan, and Maney, and was assistant corporation counsel for the city of Albany, New York. Now, check this out. Judge Gerard Maney tried to beat a driving while intoxicated case, and this happened back in 2009, and where he was driving driving drunk, had left a private club in Albany. Private club. I wonder, think about that. Left this private club, and he goes and he's driving, and he's the Green Island, over the Green Island area there, and shortly thereafter, he gets pulled over by this female officer, Vogel, who pulled him over, and he's trying to get out of it. He's got a family court judge special plate. The Green Island police officer, Stacy Vogel, had to pursue him. This is around 8:30 at night. At approximately 8:30, respondents' vehicle approached the Green Island Bridge, where local police were operating a sobriety checkpoint. Respondent, Judge Maney, made an illegal U-turn in an attempt to avoid the checkpoint. Green Island police officer Stacy Vogel pursued respondent in a marked police vehicle with its lights and siren turned on for approximately a half a mile before he pulled over his vehicle and came to a stop. Officer Vogel approached the vehicle, and asked for his driver's license and registration. He provided those documents and identified himself as a family court judge. The officer Vogel did not know that the special license plate on the respondent's vehicle signified that he was registered to a judge, nor did she recognize respondent or know him to be a judge. So these special plates, he had the FCJ, which signifies family court judge. So now you understand a little bit more how corrupt Judge Jill A. King and her corrupt brother-in-law, Matt Turner, graduate of American Catholic University, assigned this judge, Judge GERARD Maney, to my divorce case because they had the thumb on him. He had to appear before the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, but they can kill his career because that's how the Jesuits work. And you can see the connection all the way back to Rome, Pope Pius XII, Nazi Pope, back to Nazis, Pope John the 23rd, assassination of JFK. We're not going to get into that. But this is how deeply embedded this family is in New York State. And Judge GERARD Maney was the corporate counsel for the city of Albany. Of course, that's the Albany Archdiocese. That's Cuomo back when he was governor. And his handler, Archbishop of New York, Timothy Michael Dolan, who, likes to show up at all the inaugurations of our U.S. presidents. And this is the embedding of the Jesuits in America. For 26 years, I have published all different types of titles of glossy magazines, newsprint magazines. But the most important work that I've done is between 2002 and 2008, when the phony UN Vatican Faith and Globalization Initiative was being launched. So I was publishing this newsletter, multi-page newsletter, The God Press, and I was handing copies out. I printed thousands of copies and handed them out across from the Thomas Jefferson House on Market Street in the city of Philadelphia. And the Department of Homeland Security used to roll by very slowly. And people would take them. I think I only had 3 or 4 people that didn't want a copy, but most people were taking them. Wrote this book, self-published this book, Divorce and Domestic War. Jose Dad's my website. And then somebody left at least a dozen handwritten notes, and you can see how antiquated this paper is, about different people in the Catholic Church.
Let me ask you about another area that you campaigned on quite a lot, and there was a flurry of activity on, and that has to do with immigration.
Sure.
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops this week condemned some of the executive orders signed by President Trump, specifically those allowing immigration.
As a practicing Catholic, I was actually heartbroken by that statement. And I think that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to actually look in the mirror a little bit and recognize that when they receive over $100 million to help resettle illegal immigrants, are they worried about humanitarian concerns, or are they actually worried about their bottom line? We are going to enforce immigration law. We're going to protect the American people.
Yeah.
Donald Trump promised to do that. And I believe the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, if they're worried about the humanitarian costs of immigration enforcement, let them talk about the children who have been sex trafficked.
Everybody's wondering today, did J.D. Vance kill the Pope?
So good to see you.
I took down the website prosaydads.org and xbnights.net after constant harassment, covert electronic surveillance, you name it, harassment of my children by the Obama administration. Now I got to tell you, there was this, you know, the whole birth certificate controversy with Barack Obama. This judge, David I. Schmidt, a New York State Supreme Court justice, New York State's first Orthodox Jewish Supreme Court justice, filed a temporary restraining order against Governor David Patterson, against Assemblyman Jim Tedisco, who is supposed to be a conservative Republican, against Attorney General Andrew Mark Cuomo, you name it, all these other politicians who were supporting Barack Obama's election, but many conservative evangelicals and Republicans were still asking for the birth certificate. So the New York State cabal used the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, which is not allowed to operate on domestic soil, to pose as New York City police officers. They are the John Does in this TRO. Central Intelligence Agency, Barack Obama, Business International Dummy Company, off the books CIA, posing as New York City police officers, as well as, the NSA spy surveillance. We know now the NSA was spying on its allies like Germany and other countries. But of course, there's been domestic surveillance, illegal surveillance here in the United States. And that was the Snowden case. But that was way after. But back to this guy, Judge David I. Schmidt. So he goes and he files this TRO. And they file all their exhibits. And he puts a temporary restraining order against the FBI, the NSA, the CIA, and all these folks and all these politicians working to support Barack Obama. So after this judge files this temporary restraining order against all these covert operatives, suddenly this woman is placed in his office in Kings County to be a so-called secretary, and she's a honeypot. And the two of them get into talking about sexual things, and the next thing she's reporting that he's sexually harassing her, and he's removed from the bench. But then he goes and he helps his niece win election in Kings County as a judge, and shortly after mysteriously dies of a heart attack. You're looking at the Jill A. Kane on the bottom left corner, who practiced law for 6 years without a license in Republican judges Hank Bauer's courtroom, getting drug dealers off with commuted sentences. Meanwhile, Judge Hank Bauer was removed from the bench for giving people draconian sentences for riding on a sidewalk. This is the Catholic cabal. They sing the Kumbaya moment when they're in their parishes on Sunday. But some Catholics are into Santeria witchcraft and Strega witchcraft, which is Italian witchcraft. And you have to be aware of Irish witchcraft, Celtic witchcraft, and the hearth fires and all of the paganism that goes along with Irish witchcraft, which has become entangled with Strega, Italian witchcraft. Now you look here, these guys from the Order of the Sons and Daughters of Italy and America, this guy, Jim Montgomery, a Frenchman who's married to an Italian woman, kept telling me I had to meet the bartender at the Bedrock Inn. Now look at this graphic that I put together here between the ancient order of Hibernians, the order of the sons and daughters of Italy, the Viscusi family aiding Viscusi, the Murphy family, related to the Sullivan family. The Sullivans are related to the Foti family, Sergeant Chris Foti, Mayor McCarthy, ancient order Hibernian. His wife's maiden name is Sullivan, and they're all connected. Order of the Sons and Daughters of Italy, the big Irish-Italian cabal that runs politics, religion, and everything else, restaurants, you name it, in the Capital District and beyond. So let's talk a little bit more about witchcraft. Strangeria, witchcraft, and this Lily Morgan has a website that's all about witchcraft. Isn't that amazing? But they're targeting me, the Christian evangelist and Christian apologist, who was able to prove that my second crazy Italian-German ex-wife had borderline personality disorder. And Judge Jill A. Keene, who is corrupt and tried to keep me from filing an answer in my divorce, case, should I say, separation case. My ex, who moved in and out, I found out eventually in that 3-year marriage that she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And how I found out that she had borderline personality disorder was she hated this Hometown Health on State Street in Schenectady, and she always, looked down her nose on it. But then when she was working for the ARC of Schenectady and she needed a note to go back to work, claiming she had other disabilities and none of her doctors had a record of it, she eventually had to go to Hometown Health. And a nurse practitioner asked her why she was taking these certain medications that, come to find out in our short marriage, she was lying to me about. And that day, her medicine must have been not working too well, because she told the nurse practitioner at Hometown Health, "Oh, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder." And at that point, I was just shocked. And I was like, what the hell is that? I go out into the hallway and I'm Googling it. And I'm like, no wonder she's been physically assaulting me on the toilet, literally slapping me as hard as she can, digging her nails into me. Then has the nerve to go tell me that I should know when I should take my poop, that I'm not allowed to take my poop, that I need to do it when I get up at 5 in the morning. Insane stuff. So I sent this memo before I filed the answer and the answer, they were both included, to the court clerk in Rensselaer County Court in Troy. And I made sure that it was sent priority mail with return receipt. And then I physically went to the courthouse to make sure that a copy was filed on time. And the court clerk told me, Judge King said that you can't file an answer, that you have to go see her. I was like, what? Obviously, you're never going to be able to go see the judge. And I said to the clerk, I said, no, you know what? I'm representing myself pro se. I need you to mark this filed. And I had my 3 copies, one for the judge, one for the court clerk, and one for my copy. And she finally realized that I knew my rights and stamped all 3 copies. She would want to use anal beads with me and sodomize me to see if I would like it, and I would not give in to these crazy things. One time I did let her try, and I told her, I don't like it. Please stop. She was a sexual pervert. She was into child pornography, come to find out, in the marriage.
By the way, I cheated on you.
Well,
You can get a divorce.
alright, so you cheated on me?
Yep,
With who?
several times.
With who?
Oh, what does it matter?
Well, I'd like to know.
Oh, it doesn't really matter.
So you cheated on me. I mean, I'm okay with talking to you about that.
Why?
Because you're saying that because I talked to my daughters and my mom, so when I
Little
talked to
bit.
my pastors and my mom and
Yeah.
my daughters, I was cheating in your book. What was so bizarre in my second ex-wife, Italian-German ex-wife, and my case before Judge Jill A. Keene in Troy was that the judge was fully aware. I gave her proof that I was living with a woman with diagnosed borderline personality disorder. It wasn't until towards the end of the marriage that I started speaking to my mom and my daughters and professionals about the fact of what was going on. And they said, if you know that she's been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, she could kill you in your sleep. She was pushing me through doors. There was a lot. Everything from her was coming physical violence, and that's why I had filed the TRO against her the first year. But then she played upon my sensitivities, and I dropped it. Heather L. Bonanno Dukes was covering up for her because she was in cahoots with Judge Jill A. Keene, and they had her in this Unity House in Troy, where she didn't qualify for it. She lied to them, and Heather L. Dukes, the lawyer, court-appointed lawyer, had her down as not working. She never stopped working. She always had a job. I had to send by priority mail with return receipt to report Judge Jill A. Keene and her Catholic cabal to the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. This Unity House of Troy is financed by the Council on American Islamic Relations, Saudi Prince Al-Walid, 9/11 attacks on America financier who paid for Barack Obama's Harvard education. And my second ex had a job and she did not qualify to live there. And this Judge Jill A. Keene and Heather Lynn Dukes Bonanno, who's the Bonanno family out of Hamilton, New York, where the mystic order of veiled prophets of the Enchanted Realm, also known as the Grotto, also known as the Fairchild Deviltry Committee, Anglo-Catholic Freemasons that worship Satan, they all want my butt. I took down the website prosaydads.org and xbnights.net after constant harassment, covert electronic surveillance, you name it, harassment of my children by the Obama administration. Nancy Pelosi is Central Intelligence Agency. So know that. A lot of these folks out of California, especially the Harvard grads, they all join the CIA and they work in as politicians, they work as media. This is what the propaganda duo P2 is all about.
Infamous for its involvement in political intrigue, financial corruption, and criminal activities during the latter half of the 20th century. The Lodge, which was originally created as part of the wider Masonic tradition, evolved into a shadowy power network that infiltrated Italian politics, business, and even media. The P2 Lodge was founded in 1877 as a part of the Italian Grand Orient Freemasonry. Masonic lodges, including P2, were common in Europe and known for gathering intellectuals, politicians, and businessmen. It served as a lodge primarily for aristocrats and politicians who wanted to maintain a low profile in their Masonic activities. In the 1960s, the P2 Lodge began its transformation into a more secretive and politically active organization under the leadership of Licio Gelli. Gelli, an enigmatic figure with ties to fascist regimes during World War II, took control of the lodge in 1966 and used it as a tool to further his personal ambitions and political agenda. Licio Gelli had a controversial past, including working as a liaison for Mussolini's regime, and later cultivating ties with right-wing governments across Europe and South America. His charisma and political connections allowed him to shape the lodge into a vehicle for covert operations. Under Gelli's leadership, P2's membership swelled, reaching over 900 influential members. These included senior politicians, military officers, intelligence officials, bankers, businessmen, and journalists. Gelli carefully selected individuals who could wield power and serve as part of a clandestine network capable of influencing public affairs from behind the scenes. its members sought to maintain control over key state institutions, such as the military, law enforcement, and the media, to steer political decisions and protect their financial interests.
And this guy, Michael Morrell, here with John O'Brien and Obama, runs Beacon Global Strategies, a CIA off-the-books hit squad that works with Hillary Clinton. And I believe Anthony Bourdain from CNN, Parts Unknown, was assassinated because he exposed Harvey Weinstein, he exposed Hillary Clinton, he publicly disgraced Bill and Hillary Clinton. He was hanging out with Clinton when she was Secretary of State. He did all these CNN shows in Iran and in Libya and you name it, and they were just spoof shows for the CIA. And he had a lot of secrets that he took to the grave with him, and I believe that he was assassinated.
Why they're not prosecuting them? They're very powerful people.
Yeah. So, well, a word you use might explain it. You use the word compromise, and that's having, compromising information about a public official. And so, who was collecting this as compromise?
Oh, Epstein was. He was absolutely collecting it.
Just Epstein? Or do we think there was someone behind Epstein?
Oh, you think Mossad? Is that what you're thinking? I know that he was helping the CIA. I remember seeing that in some of the data, in some of the documents that he had offered some information to CIA. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was factored into his sweetheart deal. I mean, he did travel a lot. He was friends with Ehud Barak. He was constantly, he was constantly among powerful people. He picked up things and he passed it along, and that was a factor in his sweetheart deal. The people he spent time with certainly had those contacts. He knew people at the highest levels of many governments.
The Jesuits, the Archdiocese of Albany, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and all of these cult of Sol Invictus, Mithras Sol Invictus. And it's all tied in with the Jesuits and their Palestinian partners and their Saudi partners and their Obama benefactors, Prince Al-Walid, who paid for Barack Obama's Harvard education. They're not Democrats or Republicans. They're all puppets of the Vatican. They're all puppets of the Jesuits, the deplorable Jesuits. So don't get upset. This is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This is the fact that we have a foreign power that has just tried to destroy America since the American Civil War, which if you read the book of Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 7, you can see the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. And this is what biblical prophecy, not my words, but the Bible of Revelation, the first 3 chapters of Revelation, you can read about these dynasties of Europe and these churches that came out of them. But the book of Daniel, especially Daniel chapter 2 and 7, shows you that through marriage, all of these royal families, these dynasties of Europe, going back to the crowning of Charlemagne in 800 AD, have extended into this Faith and Globalization Initiative, which was launched at the Time Warner Building in New York City in 2008. Bill Clinton introducing Iraq inquiry, accused war criminal, former Prime Minister Tony Blair, who converted to Roman Catholicism in 2007, started giving these grand speeches on faith globalization. And the next thing, the Vatican invited him to the Vatican under Pope Benedict XVI, gave him a red carpet welcome, and started his Catholic indoctrination. Then the next thing, they launch in May 2008 at the Time Warner Building in New York City with all the globalists, Yale University Skull and Bones, University of Singapore, Durham University out of the UK, and they launch this Faith and Globalization Initiative. And what it is the Vatican, Rome. All roads lead to Rome. Well, the secret Idaca Forum was formed in 1938 before the United States entered into World War II. We didn't enter into World War II until the 1940s, 1941, 1942. These Opus Dei Propaganda Due P2 Opus Dei judges and politicians are upset that I am a Christian apologist who rightly divides the word of truth and writes Christian apologetics on social media, and that I publish books that I give away for free. Clandestine organizations that are operating primarily in New York State and want to cancel culture anyone who is a moderate, cancel culture anyone who just is apolitical and wants to do veterans events. I do not understand how most of the news agencies in our region have been promoting this guy, Dave Portnoy, who advocates the rape of women, who at least 7 women have come forward to report him for violent and humiliating sexual acts. You can connect the dots to the fact that now they're trying to bring this Dave Portnoy, who advocates rape of women, who is a sexual deviant, to the area to do a pizza event, which they continue to do even at the mayoral debates. The day before they all went on News 10 WTN, at the mayoral debates in Schenectady, WGY radio host Doug Gowdy was even promoted Dave Portnoy there and made that one of the fast track questions.
Dave Portnoy, the Barstool president, recently did a series of pizza reviews that were watched by millions of people. His first pizza review started with his expressing his shock at how cool J Street is. He didn't know, and he couldn't stop singing its praises. With that said, leave J Street out. Tell Mr. Portnoy about another cool thing about Schenectady the next time he's back. Mr. Varno, you're first.
Another cool thing about Schenectady. I've lived here my entire life, and I believe this whole city is cool. I believe the residents of this city are what make it.
They've tried to kill me many times. They've tried to run me and my lady off the road. She's a Lombardi. Her family's from Staten Island. Her dad was an Amsterdam cop and a well-liked cop. And her family are conservatives like myself. And, so these folks don't understand the history of our family. We are warriors, spiritual warriors and physical warriors dating back to the American Revolutionary War. And they can't stand the fact that my family has so many Italians, that we're mixed. We're a mixed family between Irish Scots and Caribbean Creole, which has a lot of Italian ethnicity in our family. We have a lot of Rendazzos and Ciccios from Corleone, Sicily. That these are all our family, our direct family. My oldest sister is married to the Ciccio family, who, if you know anything about Al Pacino, the Pacino family, they're from Corleone, truly from Corleone. Forget about the movies. We're talking real life. But I'm not in any organized crime. My friends and I are not doing anything illegal.
An historic trial that began Tuesday in Argentina is set to reveal new details about how 6 Latin American countries coordinated with each other in the 1970s and 1980s to eliminate political dissidents.
The United States Army of America's training camp in Panama trained these assassins and soldiers using Jesuits, also known as the quote-unquote Society of Jesus, CIA officers, NOCs, non-official cover, and military leaders to train these assassins to target, illegally kidnap, imprison, rape, torture, and murder dissidents. It wasn't about fighting communism, and clandestine military and political strategists like Kissinger and South American dictators have not been held accountable for the disappearance and the killing and the murder and the rape and the torture of over 480,000 people.
Days after the conclave ends, the rule of Pope Vance and the Argentine dictatorship hounds him. Verbitsky publishes a photo of Bergoglio giving Holy Communion to Videla.
They held a meeting behind closed doors, but during their formal greeting, the atmosphere seemed relaxed. Pope Francis joked and President Maduro was quite talkative.
And now, corrupt Judge Matthew J. Turner is serving with his sister-in-law, corrupt Judge Jill A. King, in the family court in Rensselaer County in Troy. These people are corrupt because they only answer to the Vatican, to the Albany Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church, to Bill Donahue from the Catholic League, who targets anybody who comes forward to expose the Catholic Church for pedophilia, for rape and sodomy. And they protect them. They cover up the Jesuits. The Jesuits and the coadjutors of the Jesuits are bankers and lawyers and real estate guys, and they're part of that propaganda due, P2, Italian branch of Freemasonry, which was established in 1877. Tony Blair, who converted to Roman Catholicism in 2007, was invited to the Vatican by Pope Benedict XVI and was indoctrinated, whose wife is a John Wilkes Booth descendant, Sherry Booth Blair, and this deep state new world order that is taking over the world. It's happening right in front of your eyes. The plan in 1991 was to topple 7 nations in 5 years. Well, they've been delayed on it. Okay, under Tony Blair and George W. Bush, Iraq, we go in and invade them. No weapons of mass destruction. Then Obama becomes president and we topple Egypt. We topple Libya. This is what Anthony Bourdain, CNN Parts Unknown, was revealing. Under Obama, Sudan, Somalia, and now Syria, and there's the proxy war in Iran. That's 7 nations. Psalm 37:13 says, God laughs at the wicked, for he sees their day coming.